Welcome everyone to the final round of Season 3 for the PDC Racing League. We're at Silverstone for the final two races of what has been another excellent campaign of racing. The PDC Racing League throughout the first two seasons has provided us with drama, side-by-side racing, championship battles that have gone right down to the wire, and Season 3 looks set to provide us with much the same. My name is Andy McEwen, up here in the comms box. Graham Sessford producing the wonderful coverage for us again tonight as we get ready for a spectacular evening's entertainment. We have got a three-way fight for the championship with actually a couple of others that mathematically could still put themselves into contention as well. And we've got arguably the perfect circuit for these 2-litre Skip Barber Formula 2000 cars to do battle on. We're at Silverstone, like I said, but not Silverstone as you may know it. This is the historic Grand Prix circuit, which is kind of a hybrid of the proper historic Silverstone circuit and then the classic Formula 1 layout, pre-village and loop, with the Abbey chicane and then Bridge, Priory, Brooklands, that whole final sector a little bit different. It's fast, it's wide open, there are lots of overtaking opportunities and even more chances to get that all-important slipstream, which we've seen time and again, even on the tightest and fiddliest of circuits, can be really crucial in getting yourself through the pack and in contention for race wins. Well, speaking of race wins, we had a pair of races a week ago at the Tsukuba circuit in Japan, which really saw the championship battle twist and turn. And it's this ongoing rivalry between Freddie Hewitt and Dan Blake that we were kind of plugging going into that round. It was Blake that took the win in race number 1, but in dramatic fashion, because Freddie Hewitt was dicing away for the race victory towards the end of the race. There was contact made, though, with Nick Veltenaar into the first corner. It took them both out of contention, and Freddie Hewitt was later excluded from the race. That will have some championship implications that we'll get to in a moment as well. But it was Blake with the win, Daniel Hunt second on his debut this season, and Carl Jacquelet joining them on the podium. Then, in the second race, Freddie Hewitt bounced back. He came right from the back of the field, with Dan Blake actually, to win the race from Daniel Hunt in second and Nick Veltenaar third. It was Blake this time that was in trouble. He finished down in 5th position. That will, though, become one of his drop scores. Again, more on that in a moment or two. This, therefore, is how the Drivers' Championship looks. So we've got the total points, but also the drop scores, and that's the key. Each driver has to drop race one, including the points that they scored in qualifying. You score 10 points, remember, for qualifying on pole for race 1, 9 for second, 8 for third, and so on. So you drop one qualifying and that respective race 1 result. You also have to drop a race 2 result from somewhere along the line. Well, we've had 2 events so far, 2 race 1s, 2 race 2s, and so each driver is dropping their worst. And all of that means that David Ward arrives here at Silverstone on drop scores, which is what counts, on 69 points. He's 5 points clear of Dan Blake, who is second, and in third place, benefiting slightly actually from not competing in the season opener at Lime Rock Park, is Daniel Hunt, the privateer driver, on 59 points. So he's only 10 points off the championship lead, despite having competed in only 2 races so far. Freddie Hewitt is 4th in the points after his exclusion. That means he can't drop that excluded result from Tsukuba, so that's really hurt him. He's dropping a maximum points haul, pole position and 2 race wins he's dropping. And in 5th place in the points is Phil Reagan on 42. In fact, he's joint 5th with Nick Veltenaar, who's been out of luck completely all season long. If he's in the money tonight, though, and he gets a bit of good fortune, he could still mathematically win the championship. So it's all still to play for, basically, coming into these final couple of rounds, including in the Teams Championship, where Team Fastar with Team Cheetah Esports are leading the way on 219 points. That's David Ward and Freddie Hewitt's team. Year One Racing are second on 185. So Year One Racing's Dan Blake and Nick Veltenaar have been scoring good points. They just haven't had the race wins that the Fastar and Team Cheetah team have been able to get. So they've got a bit of work to do if they want to try and win the Teams Championship here tonight. So the top 3 then in the championship: David Ward, Dan Blake and Daniel Hunt. It's been fascinating watching their progress through the season, although Daniel Hunt, as I said, only joined us last time out at Tsukuba. And, well, David Ward has 1 win. Dan Blake has 1 win. Daniel Hunt hasn't had a win yet, but he was second in both of the races last time. And, of course, he automatically drops the 2 races and the qualifying session from Lime Rock Park. So Dan Hunt is very much in contention, but can't afford a bad evening tonight. If he has a DNF or a result that's out of the points or towards the back of the points, that pretty much will count him out, because he will have to count it. He can't drop it because he's already got his 2 drop scores in the bank. As for the others, well, David Ward is dropping fewer points than Dan Blake. Dan Blake on outright points is quite comfortably ahead, actually. He's 13 points clear of David on total points, but that's because he's been doing better. He's had a race win, he's had a second place as well. He's never been out of the top 5 in any of the 4 races so far this season, has Dan, and that's kind of come back to bite him. The flip side of that, though, is that he can afford, in a way, to have a bad result tonight and then count that as the drop. So even though on the face of it, it might look like he's losing points, he could, in essence, then be counting back points from a previous night. Drop scores are always a bone of contention. They always confuse people, but they are in place, basically, to allow for situations such as Daniel Hunt's, where if you aren't able to compete in 1 or 2 races throughout the season, then it's not necessarily the end of your championship campaign, but over such a short season, it's definitely going to have quite an impact on the way the championship is settled. So we're in the 20-minute practice session now, then 12 minutes of which have elapsed. So we've got 8 minutes of practice still to go. Then we go into a 10-minute qualifying session. That will be crucial. It's the final qualifying session of the season, and the pole sitter at the end of that qualifying session will score 10 championship points, and we'll have to watch to see what David Ward and Dan Blake do, because if they have maybe their worst qualifying session of the season, they could find themselves maybe counting that as the drop score. Well, Nick Veltenar will ride on board with here for a lap of the Silverstone historic Grand Prix circuit into Copse Corner. So this corner hasn't changed much, really. Plenty of curb there. One of the PDC cars coming out of the pit lane to his right. Careful not to run wide, though, over the curbs. You'll get pinged for track limits if you do. Then down into Maggots and Beckett's. This sequence, again, hasn't changed much. Full commitment. Yep, flat through Beckett's. Down 1 gear into the next left-hander, monstering the curbs. And then staying in gear, like gear, I'll be 3rd gear then, I'd imagine, through the right-hander, through Chapel, and back out onto the Hanger Straight, which is where that slipstream will really start to come into effect. This is one of the best overtaking opportunities on the circuit, down the Hanger Straight and into Stowe Corner. And it's after Stowe that things start to change noticeably from the present version of Silverstone that we use. So Stowe Corner here, much the same. Careful not to run wide onto the exit. Now you've got grass there now rather than just the tarmac runoff area. And then at Club, we turn flat out through the left and just down onto, I think down 1 gear maybe there into Club, which is all 1 corner now, not 2 apexes as we see in the present day. And then into Abbey. Now there is a chicane here, but we're not using the chicane. Instead, we're using the original version of Abbey Corner, which is a flat out left-hand kink, changing up into top gear just on the apex. Then down the hill into Bridge Corner, one of my favourite corners in the world. It's made even more spectacular by the high-speed approach on this version of the layout. Don't run too wide, though, because you need the right-hand side of the road to get the correct line into Priory. Veltenar does well there, hits the brakes now into Brooklands, using all of the curb, throwing this car into the tight left-hander, and then Luffield and Woodcote much the same as it always has been, really, or certainly as it is on the current layout. Out of Luffield, up towards the curb, just touches it gently, and then through the flat-out Woodcote corner, and we'll see what sort of lap time this is for Nick Veltenar. He's quickest already in the session with a 2 minutes 2.39, about half a second quicker than David Ward, and he goes even quicker. A 2 minutes 2.16 now for Veltenar is 7/10 clear of David Ward in second. Carl Jacquelet is 3rd. Cesare Rizzo is 4th, and Freddie Hewitt in 5th. Now, where is Dan Blake? Dan Blake is 8th quickest at the moment. The man lying 2nd in the championship, just 5 points behind David Ward. There he is, going into Abbey Corner now. And Dan Blake, of the 2, has the worst qualifying score to drop. He is dropping 6 points. No, I'll tell a lie, actually. He's dropping 6 points from Lime Rock Park, but David Ward had a 6th place finish, which was worth just 5 points in qualifying at Sakuma. So actually, Blake is dropping 1 more qualifying point than David Ward. What that means, basically, is that if Blake qualifies out of the top 5 for this first race, that becomes his drop score for qualifying. Then that gets tagged onto his race 1 result as well. There is David Ward, the points leader. David has been a long-time competitor in the PDC Racing League, but has not yet been able to take home a championship. He's won races in all 3 seasons of PDC Racing competition, including the 2nd race this season at Lime Rock Park. Had 3 different winners so far this season, Freddie Hewitt being the winningest driver, essentially. He won a race at Lime Rock, he won a race at Tsukuba as well, but that exclusion from race 1 at the previous meeting a week ago has rather affected his championship hopes. So maybe the Team Fastar with Team Cheetah Esports team's hopes rest on this man's shoulders rather than the driver that's been doing all of the winning for them. Big shout out to Fastar as well, and anyone watching on their social media platforms tonight. Good to have you all on board. Good to see Fastar getting more and more involved in esports and sim racing as well. And they've got a really good team together here in the PDC Racing League. That Teams Championship, something new for Season 3. We've not seen it in the past, and it's definitely thrown in an extra dynamic into the racing. There is Freddie Hewitt, the second of the Team Fastar with Cheetah Esports squad. And they, as I said, arrive here on 219 points. So they are leading the Teams Championship. And second place on 185 are Year 1 Racing. That's a 34-point difference, but with 35 points available for a race win in each race, and of course the qualifying points too. That means that any one team can still score, getting on for about 90 points each event. So they haven't won it yet, Team Fastar with Team Cheetah Esports, but wish them the best of luck in tonight's pair of races at Silverstone. Freddie Hewitt, by the way, third quickest now in this practice session, but this does not count towards anything. It is, though, an interesting way of just assessing who is on the pace. Dan Blake, fifth quickest at the moment as well, so he's just improved ahead of Cesare Rizzo. Michael Seal into the top 6 too, which is interesting. As Freddie makes his way back out of Maggots and Beckett's and down the Hanger Straight once again. So the tension then starting to build. There was also a bit of an unofficial practice session earlier on this week, which many of the drivers took part in, and it was Nick Veltenar who was quickest that night with a 2 minutes 1.394, so we're still nearly a second away from those times, but of course that was quite a long session compared to this one in which they could build up to that speed. Dan Blake was second and Freddie Hewitt was down in 5th place, so the times from that test session would suggest that maybe there is more time to be had out there. Nick Veltenar quickest, but now only by 5/100ths because David Ward has improved and Dan Blake has gone third as well. So they're all sort of working their way towards the top of the times at the end of the session now. Gavin Johnson in the pit lane, but Gavin, we must give a shout out to. I know he's been working very hard behind the scenes with organising the championship, the PDC Racing League, and Gavin, who normally in the past has sort of co-run the championship with Pip Hammond, but Pip's real-world racing commitments have meant that he's not been able to race or have as deep an involvement in the championship as he might have liked. But Gavin has done a great job of putting this all together and enjoying racing as well. And be sure to head over to the PDC website, because PDC Racing website, because not only can you find information on this championship, but also the PDC Racing team's real-world exploits. They're racing at Alton Park, I believe, this weekend at the historic Gold Cup meeting, and hopefully Gavin won't do much of that when he gets to the Northwest Circuit, because you've not got quite as much runoff area there as you have at Silverstone. It's a classic example, I think, of cold tyres as he turned into the right-hander at Beckett's on an outlap from the pit lane. So Adam Mcnally we're watching here, who is a bit of a late addition to the championship. I saw a message arrive earlier on today explaining that he was going to be joining in. And he is a driver who's very rapid in Mazda MX-5s in the BSR MX-5 series. And he apparently can sometimes be a bit tricky to understand because he's got a very thick northeastern accent, but there is, as Graham, my producer, reminds me, absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's a very relaxing accent, I've found. He won't be relaxed out there at the moment, though, gearing himself up now for his first race of this third season, which is getting closer because practice is now over, and we are about to move into the 10-minute qualifying session. For reference, Nick Veltenar fastest with a 2 minutes 2.16 second lap in that practice session. David Ward, second quickest, just 5/100ths of a second behind him. Dan Blake was third, Freddie Hewitt was fourth, and Carl Jacquelet was fifth. So all of our championship contenders are towards the pointy end on times. Now, this is quite a long lap. It's 2.93 miles, nearly 3 miles in length. It's, as we've just seen, over 2 minutes for a flying lap. So they're not going to get that many laps in here, unlike Tsukuba. last week, which is only about 1.3 miles long. And actually, a lot of the drivers were finding that their quickest laps were being set right at the end of the session because it took that long to get the tyres up to temperature. Well, here, you'd imagine by the time you get round to certainly the end of your first flying lap, maybe even by the end of your out lap, you should have those tyres where you need them to be. Riding on board with Gavin Johnson a moment or two ago, cold tyres can very easily catch you out in these things. They've got limited grip. These cars all run on grooved tyres rather than a racing slick. They have got front and rear wings, but they don't do a huge amount, it must be said. You'll notice if they're gone, but they don't really give you a huge amount of downforce. It's all about mechanical grip, and that means that until you get those tyres up to temperature, you really can't start pushing on too hard. Now, this is interesting because David Ward has just dropped in behind one of the year one cars. I can't tell if it's Blake. Oh, it's Nick Veltenar. So these were the two quickest drivers in practice, but they're on opposing teams. And of course, Nick Veltenar is not realistically in championship contention. Mathematically, he could still win it, but I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Nick playing rear gunner to Dan Blake tonight to try and help Dan win the title. So it's interesting that David Ward has chosen, of all the other cars out there to work with, he's chosen to work with Veltenar, but of course, he might not want to work with his teammate Freddie Hewitt because they are both most definitely going head-to-head for the title. So maybe David Ward has decided to go rogue in this qualifying session. He's up behind Veltenar now as they come through to the end of the out lap from the qualifying session. So they're about to start their first full flying laps. Dan Blake, I think, is only a couple of cars behind them as well. So we've got a few quick drivers right at the front of the queue. They come across the start-finish line then to start the first flying lap of this very important qualifying session. So as I said, they have to drop one race one result plus whatever qualifying score they had. So if you add your race one and qualifying score together, your lowest combined score is the one you drop. David Ward's worst qualifying of the season so far was that 6th place at Tsukuba. Dan Blake's worst qualifying was 5th place at Lime Rock Park. So that gives you a rough idea of what they're aiming for. Anything better than that, and it's unlikely that this will end up being the dropped score for their qualifying. Wonder how many times I'll mention the words drop scores tonight. I think I'm already about 35. It's all about those drops though when you get to the end of the season, because it can all change even in the final race of the season. If someone has an absolute nightmare, that can become their drop score and they end up benefiting from it from earlier results in the season. Good lap coming together here so far for David Ward. He's staying in that slipstream of Nick Veltenar in front of him. If anything, looks a bit neater than Veltenar through Stowe Corner, but they're pretty much much of a muchness here, I'd say. Into the left-hander and then the right-hander at Club Corner. And sector times, looks as though Veltenar's quicker in the first sector, but David Ward quicker in the second. Veltenar getting away from him now again, though. Ebbing and flowing, and then the slipstream starts to bring David Ward back onto his tail through Abbey Corner into Bridge. But then the flip side of getting this slipstream, yes, it helps you down the straights, but then when you get into corners like this one, it can sometimes be hard to follow in the tow. But that's the joy of these Skip Barber cars. They don't produce enough downforce for that dirty air to really be an issue. And so actually Ward is continuing to close here through the final sector. So I reckon David's definitely going to be quicker than Veltenar on this lap, despite Veltenar's strong start to the lap. But is there anyone else behind who is going quicker? Well, we're going to find out now, because very quickly they're all going to start flashing across the line. My timing screen is going to start lighting up like a Christmas tree. Let's see who sets the benchmark time. Remember, they got down to the low 2-minute 2s in practice. The benchmark time from Veltenar on the grass as he sets the lap time is a 2 minutes 3.5, and Ward immediately goes quicker with a 2 minutes 3.3. Alex Hall slots in behind them, and Freddie Hewitt goes third behind them as well. Dan Blake hasn't yet come through, and I didn't think he was that far behind them. Now he comes through, but it's a slow lap. I think he dropped back to get out of traffic as Veltenar bails out as well. Lets David Ward go through, lets him do the leading on this lap. Carl Giacoletto's just gone third quickest. Gavin Johnson goes sixth, but there's definitely more time to be found. We're still a full second away from the fastest times that we were seeing in the free practice session earlier on. Someone dropping back there. That might be Alex Hall, possibly. Gavin Johnson's just gone past him as they head out onto the hangar straight again. So David Ward with the provisional pole position time, but that, I think, is going to change at the end of this lap again. And of those big three in the championship, Ward, Blake, and Daniel Hunt, Ward is quickest. Blake is, where's Blake gone? 12th. And Daniel Hunt, 5th. Yes, I thought I was going blind there. There are too many Daniels in the session. I think that's what's confusing me. There's Dan Blake, there's a Daniel Hunt. Only 2, but I'm easily confused. So Daniel Hunt, 5th quickest, just behind Freddie Hewitt. Roger Morton we're following now, heading out onto the back straight, already up to 100 miles now before they even really get onto the far reaches of the Hanger Straight. Now, he's going it alone. He's got the alternative tactic. He doesn't want to get tangled up with anyone. He doesn't really desperately want that slipstream. He's just trying to get a banker lap in now. And maybe for his final lap, he'll drop back again. Right, Veltenar, we know he's not going to improve on this lap because he dropped back behind David Ward. The question is whether or not David is going any quicker on this particular occasion. The answer appears to be yes. He's going pretty rapidly. So too Freddie Hewitt on this lap. So we might be about to see a bit more shuffling at the front. Ward, of course, is already quickest. And Veltenar really setting himself up for this lap now that he's got a bit of a slipstream from Ward, although he's not quite as close to David as I would suspect he wanted to be. Out of Woodcote they go there. David Ward, the benchmark time at the moment, to 2 minute 3.39. He improves to a 2 minute 3.08. I expected a bit more than that, though, I have to say. What about those behind? Any more changes? Yes, Freddie Hewitt goes to pole position with a 2 minutes 2.98. That's more like it. A 1/10 of a second quicker than David Ward. And Dan Blake goes 3rd. So Dan Blake gets himself onto the 2nd row of the grid, but he's then dropped down to 4th because Carl Jacquelet, out of nowhere, goes 2nd quickest. So the new order, Hewitt quickest, Jacquelet 2nd, Ward 3rd, Blake 4th, and Nick Veltenar 5th. Gavin Johnson jumps into 6th place. And where is Daniel Hunt now? He's down in 8th position. No, he's not. He improved to 4th. So Daniel Hunt does now jump up ahead of Dan Blake. That could be critical. Those top 3 in the championship. Blake is now the lowest place, but qualifying hasn't always been Dan's strongest suit. He had a 5th and a 4th place qualifying performance so far this year. He definitely races better than he qualifies, does Dan Blake. And he's actually set near enough exactly the same time as Daniel Hunt. Daniel just a fraction quicker, so he gets that 4th place. So Veltenar's dropped down to 6th, but as I said, he bailed out of that previous lap. He and Alex Hall, the two that dropped back on the previous occasion, so they didn't improve that time. This time around, though, they should be able to, over the rumble strips, out of Club Corner. Bit of traffic ahead maybe here for them to deal with too. It's not necessarily something they wanted to be dealing with heading into the final sector. It's seen them coming though, I think, and is moving out of the way. Well, it gets out of the way of one of them anyway. It's one of the other Year 1 Racing with Alpha Live cars. So a semi-teammate to Nick Veltenar. Didn't make his life too difficult. Back through final sector they come. So Nick Veltenar then, good middle part of the lap. He is going quite quickly here. He's definitely closing in on David Ward, who I remind you is down to 3rd place now, but only a 10th off pole position. The top 7 are covered by, well, top 8 are covered by a second. The top 3 are covered by a 10th of a second. Hewitt, Jacquelet, and David Ward. Didn't really factor in Carl Jacquelet being in the lead bunch. He's not really in there as far as the points are concerned, but he is looking quick. Not quite as quick as David Ward, though, who goes to pole. No, he doesn't. Nick Veltenar beats him. Veltenar was quicker than David Ward. Veltenar to pole with a 2 minutes 2.52. 3/10 quicker than David Ward now. Hewitt down to 3rd. Down to 4th because Dan Blake goes 2nd. It's a Year 1 Racing 1-2, and Carl Jacquelet goes 3rd as well. This is all starting to shape up very nicely for the Year 1 Racing cars. They are 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in the session with David Ward and Freddie Hewitt, the two Team Fast R with Team Cheetah Esports cars. At one point before this season's over, I'll get that name right on the first attempt. They are 4th and 5th with Daniel Hunt down in 6th place. So that has really mixed things up now at the front, and they've all got time for one more flying lap. The tyres are now well and truly up to temperature, up to pressure. They've all got their eye in. Freddie Hewitt, the one that really needs to improve here, I suppose, down in 5th, and Daniel Hunt as well, actually. Freddie Hewitt and Daniel Hunt are 4th and 3rd, respectively, in the championship. And they are, at the moment, occupying the 3rd row. And Freddie Hewitt has caught that Year 1 Racing with Alpha Live car. Dean Timms, that is. Oh, and this is not going to help Freddie. He's had to go around the outside into the left-hander before Club. He's got the inside for the right-hander, but that definitely held him up. But he still hasn't got the move made. Dean Timms, in theory, doesn't have to jump out of the way because he's also on a flying lap. But there's no doubt Freddie has been quicker. And still Freddie Hewitt can't turn into Abbey Corner. So Dean Timms, whether intentionally or not, I'm not sure, but he's definitely holding up Freddie Hewitt here, who now goes through and completes the manoeuvre. But, well, I think they were just both sort of stuck running side by side. Once you pull out of the slipstream, it's quite hard to complete the pass. Right, checkered flag is out then. Veltenar, Blake, Jacquelet, 1, 2, 3 for Year 1 Racing. Can they keep it that way, or have David Ward, Freddie Hewitt, or Daniel Hunt got anything for them? Well, Jacquelet can't improve. He's bailed for the pit lane, so he stays 3rd. What about Veltenar and Blake, though? Veltenar's about to complete his final lap of the session and see the checkered flag. He comes across the start-finish line, Nick Veltenar, and Does he improve? Yes, but only fractionally. A 202. No, it was actually by half a second, excuse me. 202.05. And Freddie Hewitt goes second. So it's Veltnar on pole now. Hewitt second. Dan Blake's just gone across the line and gets second back from him. Brilliant stuff. Gavin Johnson goes fifth. David Ward is down to sixth now. And he's seen the checkered flag. Daniel Hunt is seventh. He's the next one we need to watch across the start-finish line. He's coming up towards it now, and Daniel Hunt needs to improve. Here he comes, the blue, red and black number 14 car of Daniel Hunt, the privately entered car. He's not racing for any of the big teams. Crosses the line. Does he improve on 7th? He does not. Improves his time, but not his position, and he's a full 8.5 tenths off pole as well. So Daniel Hunt will be a little disappointed with that, I think. It looks as though Nick Veltnar has got the pole position in a really, really exciting qualifying session, and Dan Blake second. So it's not quite a 1-2-3 for Year 1 racing. It is, though, a 1-2-4. Jack Letdown in fourth. The interloper is Freddie Hewitt in third. Henry Church, by the way, just jumped into the top 10 at the end of the session as well. We focused quite rightly on the championship contenders in that session, but a few others who had a good run there. Gavin Johnson with his best qualifying effort of the year, I think, in fifth. Let's have a look. Gavin Johnson, oh yeah, by far, he hadn't been better than ninth so far this year. He's into the top 5. Alex Hall is 8th. Michael Seale's in the top 10 as well. So quite a few drivers performing well at Silverstone here in qualifying. But of the championship contenders, really, it's Dan Blake that's done the best there. That is definitely his best qualifying effort of the season. As I said, he hadn't done better than 5th up until this point, and now he's stuck it on the outside of the front row of the grid. Freddie Hewitt, however, in 3rd. That is the first time he's not been on pole this season for a race 1 at least. So that is now his worst qualifying effort, but he can't drop it unless he adds that to his race 1 worst result. No, he'll have to, won't he? Because he's had a win in a race 1 at Lime Rock Park, but then race 1 at Tsukuba was an exclusion. So whatever happens to Hewitt in race 1 now, this will become his drop score. That's interesting. So all of this makes sense in my head. I hope it makes some sense in yours. It's all a bit confusing. Henry Church here is going for another lap. He has seen the checkered flag, but he's just enjoying himself out there on the Silverstone historic Grand Prix circuit. But once the time ticks to 0, which will happen in about 15 seconds' time, the session will be over and we'll start setting the grid for our first of 2 20-minute races tonight. Veltnar and Blake, top 2 on the grid. What will Nick Veltnar do? Will he go for broke? Will he try and win the race himself and get back into championship contention? He's not a million miles back, about 27 points off the points lead, but if Ward, Blake and Hunt have a bad night, he could still nick it from them. Or will he choose to help Dan Blake and try to help his teammate win the championship? All remains to be seen. So waiting then for the cars to start lining up on the grid ahead of this penultimate round of the 3rd season of PDC Racing League action. And we're just waiting for the grid to be confirmed, and then we will jump into the first race of the night. Cars are lining up on that grid then, so it's Veltnar and Blake on the front row together, and Henry Church will be also maybe trying to work with his teammates here to try and help Freddie Hewitt get back into this. Team Fastar have had some good results so far in the championship. Ready almost to go racing, I think. We're waiting for Pete Van Gool to spawn onto the grid, and then we'll be good to go. Veltnar and Blake, row 1. Hewitt and Jacqueline, row 2. Johnson and Ward on row 3, with Daniel Hunt coming from the 4th row. The revs are starting to rise, though. We're ready to go for 20 minutes of racing here at the Silverstone Historic Grand Prix Circuit. The penultimate round of the championship is go! The Year 1 racing cars launch off the front row pretty much evenly, I'd have to say. Freddie Hewitt slots into 3rd. It's a pretty calm getaway, but by the time it gets to Copse Corner, they might have started to punch together a bit, which indeed they already have. Veltnar takes the inside line to defend. And contact! That's Daniel Hunt! Daniel Hunt has made contact with... That was David Ward, wasn't it? Yes, it was. David Ward is going down the order too. So 2 of our top 3 drivers have come together at the first corner. Would you believe it? David Ward and Dan Hunt are both way down the order. And that, as they say, changes everything as far as the championship's concerned, because now Dan Blake is in the pound seat. He heads out of Maggots and Beckett's for the first time and along the hanger straight then, and Dan Blake up there in second place, pulls alongside Nick Veltenar for the race lead going down that hanger straight, and Freddie Hewitt was closing in on them as well. He's going to get a good slipstream, so too is Carl Jacquelet. The four of them might be about to arrive at Stowe Corner as one. Into the braking zone they go. Who's going to get there first? It's going to be Hewitt. Freddie Hewitt gets the lead going through the right-hander, and he will now try to get away. David Ward has come into the pit lane meanwhile, so he is presumably going to be a retirement. So this, you would have to imagine, will affect the drop score situation. Side by side for the race lead, though, as they go out of Club Corner. And one of the Year 1 racing cars getting itself up alongside the Freddie Hewitt machine. The trouble with having all the Year 1 cars at the front of the field, they all look quite similar. They've all got different flashes of paint across the noses, but from a distance, not always easy to tell what is which one is which. Oh no, they've come together! They're all off! They're all off at Bridge Corner, and Dan Blake is the one that's come out of it. Sam Holman is second, but Freddie Hewitt, Carl Jacquelet and Nick Veltenar have all made contact at Bridge Corner. Now that is going to be a bone of contention, I'm sure. Dan Blake has come out then, the number 27 car. With the race leaders, more contact. Sam Holman there getting involved with Ian Crosby, I think that was. There is Jacquelet, number 42. What on earth is going on here at Silverstone? That the inside is the number 5 car now as well, so that is going to be Holman. So, words fail me right now. I cannot quite believe what we've just seen on the first lap. Dan Blake, though, has been handed this now on a silver platter. Fantastic stuff. And he has got a very, very comfortable lead now over the rest of the field as they make their way back down towards Maggots and Beckett's. So, all in a bit of shock, I think, after that. I didn't quite see, I have to say, what happened into Bridge Corner, but clearly a bit of a coming together there between the 3 Year 1 cars and Freddie Hewitt. The next question, I guess, is whether or not Dan Blake has any damage. That could be the key. And Blake is... Well, he's getting away out in front here, isn't he? From Henry Church in second. It's Carl Jacquelet showing on my timing screen as third, but he can't be because you can see him down there at about 5th place going into the Abbey corner, Club Corner, sorry, once again. So, Sam Holman then, he picked his way through all of that. The order now bearing absolutely no resemblance whatsoever to the order at the start of the race. And through Abbey Corner they go once again. Sam Holman here dicing away with his teammates. I believe we are fighting a couple of technical issues in the background with the live timing system, which is why we are stuck watching Sam Holman. But as it happens, it's the best battle inside the top 5, so I'm quite happy with this. He's racing away with his teammate just behind. And Sam Holman, who races for the Team Cheetah Esports team in the 31 car. Henry Church is the number 5 car right behind him. This is 3rd and 4th positions. Dan Blake, I'm going to guess, does not have any damage because he's racing away from everyone else out in front. Now, if Blake wins the race, having qualified... Where did he qualify? Now, he was 3rd on the grid, wasn't he, Dan Blake? So this is going to be his best race 1 points haul of the season so far. And, of course, Freddie Hewitt, well, he was always going to be dropping this one anyway, so actually a non-finish here for Hewitt is not the end of the world necessarily. The one this really hurts is Daniel Hunt, because he didn't have any more drop scores to play with. Blake qualified 2nd, excuse me, so yeah, this could be a 43-point haul for Dan Blake. Added on to the 64 that he already had, that would take him on to 107 points. Live timing is back, and then it's gone again, and then it's back again. Hopefully we'll get to the bottom of this before the end of the stream. No, we are back, I think. Good, so we can start moving through the order. It's Pete Van Gool at 2nd, I thought it was. Henry Church 3rd, Sam Holman 4th, although they just swapped around there, didn't they? Church going ahead of Holman into Church Corner. Right, so where are the others? Veltenar is 20th. This pretty much seals the deal on his championship hopes. Daniel Hunt is 17th, and I think he's been in the pit lane, has he not? No, he hasn't actually. So he's just carried on with a bit of damage, maybe. Where is... Oh, David Ward is 2 laps down. Yes, so he's right at the bottom of the timing screen. And I think, yeah, Freddie Hewitt is still in the pit lane as well. So Dan Blake is going to come out of this on gross scores, at least, with far more than everybody else. But as for what that means for the drops, I know not. This will definitely become Freddie Hewitt's drop score. It will also become David Ward's drop. And he was previously dropping 23 points from Tsukuba, where he qualified 6th and then finished the first race 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in 6th place as well. So David Ward is actually set to gain out of this, ironically. Not as much as Dan Blake is, of course, but he is still set to come out of this not too badly. I'll break the abacus out between races and try and figure out exactly what it all means. Gavin Johnson here in the number 9 car. He's running in 8th place, so he also got caught up in one of the many incidents on the opening lap, I think, because he qualified better than that inside the top 5. Racing away here with Ben Best right behind him, and Ben Best in the 303 car is... how was it here? No, he didn't race with us, I don't think, at Lime Rock Park, but he did race last time out at Tsukuba and scored his only points of the season so far. He scored 2 points in race 1 and 2 points in race 2 for a pair of 14th place finishes. So he's on for his best finish of the season so far. If he stays where he is, inside the top 10, not quite able to keep up with Gavin Johnson in front. Now, these two teammates, are they catching Pete Van Gool? I don't think they are, actually. Pete Van Gool is lapping quicker at the moment. Nick Veltenar, by the way, has just set the fastest lap of the race further back, and fastest lap, remember, is worth a bonus point. Not that it's going to matter a huge amount for him, I don't think, because, well, he could gain a few places. You have to get into the top 15 to be scoring points, though. Veltenar's drop score at the moment for a race 1 actually was at Tsukuba, where he qualified 2nd but didn't score anything in that first race. So he's dropping 9 points, and, of course, he qualified up at the front of the grid. So I'm not... Well, no, this isn't going to be a drop score, is it? So it does matter where he ends up in this one. David Ward, by the way, back down the pit lane. And I think he might well call it a day in this first race. A couple of others still sat down in the pits as well. Freddie Hewitt's back out in 23rd, but he is a lap and a bit down. David Ward's car up on the jacks, and David Ward, well, fairly quick repair, but he's just going to go out there now and maybe try to get the fastest lap. I guess his best lap of the race so far is a 2 minutes 10, which was the previous lap. Of course, he can go a lot quicker. He's getting lapped again now by Dan Blake, who continues serenely on his way, getting ready for maximum points in this race, because Blake has just set the fastest lap now, takes it away from his teammate Nick Veltenar, 2 minutes 3.09. We know they can go a bit quicker than that with a slipstream, but Dan Blake doesn't have a slipstream at the moment. He is approaching the halfway mark, though, of this first race of the evening. Pete Van Gool still 2nd, Henry Church 3rd, Sam Holman 4th, Dean Timms 5th. Shout out here to Pete Van Gool, because he's gained 20 places. 20 places for Pete Van Gool. He started 22nd, and, well, he just picked his way through all of the chaos, all of the carnage, and came out in P2. He's 1.7, well, nearly 1.8 seconds ahead of Henry Church, and lapping about the same as him, really. In fact, 2 100ths quicker last time, so Pete Van Gool could be on for a 2nd place finish here. His best finish so far was 4th in the most recent race, actually, race 2 at Tsukuba. A race in which he started some way down the order, I seem to recall. Now, Pete Van Gool is also dropping 0 points because he didn't score anything at Lime Rock Park. And with everything else that's gone on, he could actually legitimately be a championship contender here, because Pete Van Gool coming into the night on 40 points was 29 points behind David Ward and 25 points behind Dan Blake. But Blake has scores to drop possibly now, so this, Pete Van Gool is certainly going to jump into the top 4 or 5 in the championship, I reckon. In court here, we're watching now, who's got another new livery on that car. This one, a Benetton Formula 1 inspired paint scheme, suitable since we're at the home of the British Grand Prix. And Ian Court is running in 6th position, again on for probably his best result of the season so far. Well, actually, he finished 6th in the very first race at Lime Rock Park, so he's set to match that at this point. He is being caught, though, here, I think, isn't he, by Dean Timms. Well, actually, no, Dean Timms is second slowest. I think Court has just got past Dean on the previous lap. We're on war with Dean Timms in the Year 1 Racing with Alpha Live entry. He heads out of Top's corner, but of course now he's got the slipstream. He should be able to close back in again at the front of the field. Incidentally, Dan Blake's just improved upon his own fastest lap, and Nick Veltenar, his teammate, is in the pit lane, so Veltenar isn't going to score any points out of this race. But it will, I think, like I say, still be his drop score is going to be Tsukuba, where he qualified second. Timms out onto the hanger straight, gets in the tow. Checking now with a nice battle going on here for 12th position. Cesare Rizzo trying to get past Roger Morton into Maggots and Beckett's, and that is a brave move. And Roger, I think, knew that it was best not to fight that one too much. So Cesare Rizzo into 12th. Cesare is definitely another driver that could well have been championship material. Whoops, that's a rallycross line out of the complex, the Maggots and Beckett's complex there. Heads down the hanger straight. In the slipstream again comes Roger Morton, but Rizzo, yeah, he's been one of the top 5 or 6 fastest drivers all season long, but just seems to get himself caught up in too many silly incidents, really. Not always of his own making. 7th place, his best finish of the year so far, which came at Lime Rock Park in the second race. Manages to fend off Roger Morton for now, though, as they go into the club complex now, the left-hander and then the right-hander. It's a really high-speed sequence with this particular layout of Silverstone in use. And then back up through the gears again. Look at the way he weaves around there to try and get into the slipstream, into Abbey Corner, using the curb, using the grass, closing all the time, but you can't really do anything with him into Bridge Corner. And actually, in these cars, you don't even do that much slowing down into Priory. Just this left-hand takes a much tighter line over the grass and heads into Brooklands. Now, Brooklands is a passing place, but he's not quite close enough to Cesare to fight back. But as I said, with that slipstream, he should be able to stay within striking range as long as he doesn't make any mistakes. So this battle could run for a little while, I reckon. Dan Blake, by the way, another new fastest lap, 2 minutes 5.54. So they are now getting down to the qualifying times they were setting earlier on. Which makes sense because we've done just over 10 or 12 minutes or so of the race. So we are into the second half now. And there's Adam Mcnally making his first appearance. He is in 18th place, so he's gained 3 spots from where he started, dicing away here with quite a few drivers actually. That's Alex Hall just in front of him. In fact, he's at the back of this queue, so this is all essentially the battle for 14th place. Kevin McLaren, Michael Seal, Alan Toon, Alex Hall and Adam Mcnally, and they're all starting to get a bit squirrely in front of him. And Adam McNally, who we're on board with, has just set the fastest lap of the race. That's impressive. That's what the slipstream will do for you. A 2 minutes 02.52, 2 100ths quicker than Dan Blake. That takes a crucial championship point away from Blake. And McNally looks really quick here. Sliding around the outside there. He's trying now to get past Alex Hall, having disposed of Alan Toon, I think that was, going out there. It must have been a back marker coming out of Cop's corner. So he's got Seal, McGlone and Alex Hall right in front of him as they go down the hanger straight again. And the first one to make the move is Alex Hall, goes to the inside of Kevin McGlone, gets ahead of the number 7 car for 15th place, and that is for a championship point. So, again, for Alex Hall, not of a huge amount of significance championship-wise necessarily, but nice always to be into the points. Kevin McGlone now defending from McNally, who goes around the outside through the left-hander, and that's the dirty side of the road. Just not enough grip out there. So he has to settle back in. Instead, he concentrates on getting the good exit from Club Corner to try and pull alongside into Abbey. This is a brave place to try and go around the outside, though. Let's see, can he do it? Turns into the left-hander. There's no sign of the car on the left. Yes, he's gone through. Nicely done. So Adam McNally up another spot then into 16th place now, as Dan Blake has just nicked the fastest lap back away from him again, a 2 minutes 2.44. And now, because McNally's in traffic, I don't think he's going to be able to go any quicker. So Adam McNally probably not likely to take that point away again. Ian Court has now been caught by Dean Timms. So Dean Timms going quite a bit quicker, actually, half a second quicker than him on the previous lap. In fact, up the road, Henry Church was quicker than Pete Van Gool on the previous occasion as well. That gap's back under 2 seconds now. So we could still see some changes here inside the podium positions. But we'll have to see exactly how this all plays out, and I suspect there may be some discussions to be had after the race, possibly amongst those that were involved in the bit of carnage at the start of the race. These two also being reeled in by Gavin Johnson. Gavin Johnson's got a bit quicker than both of them, actually. In fact, Johnson, apart from the top three, is the fastest car on the track. You can see him there in the background. There he is, car number 9, position number 7 for the PDC racing driver. Throws the car into club corner. Little bit of damage maybe to the front of the car, but he's continuing on strongly. This is a high-speed circuit, but actually not a lot of the corners really rely too heavily on the car having a lot of downforce, so you can get away with a little bit of damage to your front ring. Certainly, you wouldn't want the rear wing to take any damage, though, because you need that rear stability, although Gavin Johnson doesn't seem to have much of that as he turns through Bridge Corner. Through Priory, that battle between Timms and Court is intensifying again, though. Look, Dean Timms really starting to apply the pressure now. He's trying to orchestrate it so that he gets the tighter run out of this corner, Luffield, and out onto the pit straight. There he goes, closing in on Ian Court, but he just didn't quite time it right that time. Blake goes quicker again, at 2 minutes 2.168, 8 seconds clear of Pete Van Gool now. Henry Church in 3rd, Sam Holman 4th, Ian Court 5th for now, but Dean Timms is really applying the pressure now, looks to the inside, looks to the outside, on board with Dean Timms. We're perched on the end of his front wing, and he's, in the end, life is made a bit easier for him by Ian Court drifting a bit too wide through copse, and there he is, bouncing his way back on the road, and Gavin Johnson's now caught them to the extent that he is going to start challenging Ian Court, what is now 7th place. Sorry, 5th place, no, 6th place, get it right. 5th for Timms, 6th for Court, 7th for Gavin Johnson. We're on board with Ian now then, the number 77 car. As for the 9th time, they accelerate away down that hanger straight, on board with Johnson now. See the slipstream start to take effect. Closing in all the time, but I'm not sure he's going to get close enough, is he? Into the braking zone. Around rear of the car, really twitchy on the way into the corner. Driving one of these things quickly is all about learning to not only live with that slightly loose rear end, but actually to enjoy it and to be able to make speed out of it. The quickest way to get these cars through the corners is to slide them sideways, but that can be a bit counterintuitive for some drivers. Closing in though, Gavin Johnson definitely quicker than the two in front, and Dean Timms is now having that same problem that so many others have had over the time in these cars. Once you clear somebody, it's quite hard to get away from them because they just sit in the slipstream. It's worth about 3/4 of a second a lap around here at least. And it's just allowing everyone to stay on his gearbox. And now if Timms makes a mistake, they'll be all over him like a rash again. What he really wants here is Gavin Johnson to start messing around with Ian Court, holding him up and allowing Ian to get away. So they come through Luffield once again. 9 laps about to be completed for this group. And this is the best battle within the top 10. Dan Blake is 8.5 seconds clear now at the front of the field, despite Pete Van Gool setting a personal best that time around, 2 minute 2.81. This should, I think, be the final lap of the race, though. So Dan Blake is nearly there. This has been probably his calmest, quietest, most uneventful race of the season so far, or possibly ever, actually, in the PDC Racing League. He's normally in the thick of the action, but with everything that happened at the start, and he'll, I'm sure, be able to shed a bit more light on exactly what did happen, he's just been able to sail on by. And Pete Van Gool, you can see in the background, just not able to live with him. The trouble is, though, don't forget, race 2, a completely random grid. So he could be starting on pole, he could be starting stone dead last, or anywhere in between. That's the other thing. Now, imagine if Blake got put at the back of the grid, but people like David Ward and Nick Veltenar and Freddie Hewitt ended up at the front. Blake would really have his work cut out then to get back to them. At least at the start of this race, he had his teammates all around him until they imploded going through Bridge Corner for the first time. It's part of the circuit he's heading towards now. Thankfully, not as likely to encounter any similar troubles this time. He's all on his own. He's got the Silverstone Historic Grand Prix circuit pretty much to himself now, because it's such a long circuit, nearly 3 miles. No risk of encountering any traffic either. So into Brooklands for the final time. Dan Blake on his way to another race victory. This will be his second of the season. And he is one of the winningest drivers in the championship as well. This will actually be his 5th win, I think. No, yes, sorry, 8th win, actually. Across the line he comes then. Dan Blake is going to win the first race here at the Silverstone Historic Grand Prix circuit in pretty dominant fashion. It's going to be about a 9 or 10 second cushion that he has over Pete Van Gool with his first podium of Season 3 of the PDC Racing League, the first podium for the Momo team as well. And then the top 2 of the Fast Star with Team Cheetah Esports cars. It's Henry Church and Sam Holman in 3rd and 4th, respectively. Dean Timms 5th, Ian Court 6th, and Gavin Johnson 7th. That's how that battle resolved itself. And what of those further back? Adam Mcnally got into 14th, but David Ward is not going to score. Freddie Hewitt's not going to score, and Nick Veltenar is not going to score. So this will more than likely become their race 1 drop, but we still have another race to come. And as I said, in the meantime, between races, I'll break out the calculator and try and figure out exactly what this means for the championship situation. But Dan Blake is not the way he would have wanted to win that race, and if it ultimately does lead to him winning the championship, it's not really the way he'd want to do that either, but he'll take it. Racing is racing, and he definitely feels that he's been on the receiving end of some rough driving at times this season. And at the end of the day, the results will count, however fortunate they may be. So Dan Blake, the race winner for the 2nd time, and coupled with his qualifying effort, where, of course, Dan was 2nd on the grid, that means it is nearly a maximum points haul because he also got the fastest lap. So that's 36 points for the win and fastest lap, and another 9 for qualifying. So he scores 45 points from that race. Here are the results then. Dan Blake with the race victory and possibly the most important one of the season. Pete Van Gool in 2nd, Henry Church 3rd, Sam Holman 4th, Dean Timms in 5th, then Ian Court, Gavin Johnson, Ben Best, Carl Jacquelette after running well early on. He was actually the one that recovered best, really, from that instant at Bridge Corner into the top 10 for him. And Chris Kidman rounds out that top 10. Then it is Cesare Rizzo in 11th, Roger Morton 12th, Michael Seal 13th, with Adam Mcnally and Ian Crosby rounding out the points, just ahead of Alex Hall in the end. Kevin McGlone was 17th, Alan Toon 18th, with Phil Reagan, David Ward, and Freddie Hewitt classified 20th and 21st, but it matters little. They won't score any points anyway. Nick Veltenar is officially a non-finisher. He wasn't running at the time of the checkered flag, nor were Daniel Hunt, Jason Wood, and Matthew Payne. So there we go. A dramatic start to the evening's entertainment here from Silverstone. And in a moment, we'll hopefully hear from 1 or 2 of our podium finishers. I'm sure that we'll hear from Dan Blake, who will be keen to talk to us about something positive, actually, because every time we've spoken to him so far this year, it seems to have been after he's been on the receiving end of some contact or something. Obviously, we had his winner's interview from Tsukuba last week, but that, again, was really all about the drama that had gone on in front of him in that race, and that's much the same as we're going to ask him this time, really, because it's not entirely clear exactly what triggered that contact at Bridge Corner. So a nice 45 points then for Dan Blake. We've established already then this obviously won't be a drop score for him, so his total going into the final race of the season is going to be 109 points. So 109 now for Blake, I think, is going to be the score to beat, because David Ward was on 69, and even if this does become a drop score, he's still going to end up losing a few points. I'm not going to attempt to multitask, talk, and count, because I won't do either of them correctly then. We'll wait until we've had a word with Dan Blake, which hopefully won't take too much longer, and then we will be able to move on to the quick maths lesson between races and the second race, which is coming up very shortly. Don't go anywhere. Still that championship deciding race to come, and it's a random grid. So the championship contenders, as I made the point during that race, could be starting anywhere from the very front to the very back. And if it's anything like last time at Tsukuba, they all ended up right together, right at the back of the field. All of the drivers that had a bit of aggro with each other as well. People like Veltenar and Hewitt and Dan Blake, they all ended up at the back of the field, having to work their way through the pack together. Imagine if we get a similar situation again here tonight. That would be particularly interesting. So still no sign then of Mr. Blake. So I think what we might do is go to our quick break now, go and round up some drivers and have a word with them at the start of part 2 of our evening here at Silverstone for the PDC Racing League. The championship deciding race is coming up in just a moment or two. So we will see what's going to happen. It's still wide open. I'll get the calculator out, work out what the points are, and we'll be back with you in just a few minutes' time with interviews after race 1 and the all-important final race of the season. Well, welcome back everyone to Silverstone. We've been busily running the calculations here on the championship situation. It's all very close, I can tell you that. We'll confirm that for you in a moment or two. First of all, though, let's hear from our race winner, shall we, from the previous race. It could have been a very important race win as well for Dan Blake, who takes his second victory of the season so far. And in a moment or two, there he is. He'll pop into the commentary box for a chat. Well, Dan, that was interesting. What happened from your point of view on the first lap?
It was crazy first lap. Andy, what I was doing was sort of held back again like I did just supercar, and it worked out for me again. I so very nearly got caught up in it though. I was right on the grass going through bridge. I hear there were some technical issues, so I didn't find the replay, but it's probably the closest I've clenched to the sim in my life, because Nick's car was coming across me and just came behind my rear wheel. It was a matter of millimetres, I think, between success and disaster.
Yeah, it could so easily have gone wrong, couldn't it? I mean, you had the 3 year one cars up there with you, or you and your 2 teammates surrounding Freddie at the start. Did that give you any sense of comfort, maybe, knowing that you had your teammates up there if it did all start kicking off?
I knew that Nick and Freddie were fast, Carl's been very quick as well, and I was looking forward to a good race. And really, it sort of transpired that the first lap, Freddie and Nick I know they were really going at it, even through the cold tyres, going through buckets and maggots. Nick was very, very loose, had to back out there to avoid going into the back of him. We went 3 wide down the straight towards Stowe, and I actually backed out of it and dropped behind the 2 of them. And I sort of knew that Nick and Freddie were very fast drivers. There was a bit of a rivalry there as well, so I just held back and sort of thought if anything did happen, I'd pick up the pieces, and I guess that's what happened in the end.
Now, of course, there's so much still left unknown because we've still got this second race to go. It's a random grid. How are you feeling ahead of this final race?
It's going to be an interesting one, isn't it? The reverse grid can throw up a lot of sort of problems in itself as such, and situations to try and get round. If I'm starting at the back, obviously I'm going to have to sort of push on. I know I probably will need to score some points as well, and really there's no way I can really talk about what I'm going to do at the moment, so I don't know what the grid is, but I think I just need to try and finish the race and do as best as I can, really, and sort of not get involved in any silly incidents, really. I think the season has been sort of changed, really, by it. There's been a lot of incidents, and they've had a big impact on the way things are. So I think even if I drop back and sort of take a 10th or 11th place finish or drop scores, that could even be enough. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic, I think, in this one.
Isn't it just? Well, I'll let you go away and get some last-minute practice if you want before this final race, but best of luck, Dan. Maybe you'll be a double PDC racing champion when we speak to you next.
We'll see. I'm not going to count my chickens, though. It's competitive, and I know Freddie, David, they're extremely quick drivers, and what will be will be. But thank you very much, Andy.
Not a problem. Dan Blake then will head into the session now, ready to try and reclaim the title that he lost to Freddie Hewitt in Season 2. In the meantime, we'll have a chat with another one of our podium finishers then, Henry Church, who I believe can join us in the comms box now. There he is. And Henry, congratulations. A good podium result there. It all kind of happened at once, didn't it, in that first lap, though? What was your view of all of the action?
Yeah, well, I mean, I wasn't actually that close to much of it, to be honest. I was just sort of... I lost a few positions on turn 1 because I had to avoid some cars, and then I don't know what happened in front with the sort of the lead group, but yeah, they all sort of took each other out, and then I found myself up in 3rd and 4th with my teammate.
Yeah, and that must have been quite a relief after all of the drama on the opening lap to have your teammate up there, but you two had a nice little scrap as well throughout the first half of the race.
Yeah, we did. We found ourselves together right near the front, and we sort of had a mind blank, and we started fighting each other, and then we thought, hang on a minute, if we work together, we might be able to both get on the podium here, but unfortunately it didn't quite work out.
No, not quite, but still some good points for the team as well there. It's been a pretty solid season for you guys, hasn't it? I think on the whole, the Fast R and Team Cheetah cars have kind of been the dominant force, haven't they? It must be nice to be a part of that.
Yes, it's good, to have people like Freddie and David to be sort of leading the charge and to ask for help when you need it. It's good to be a part of that team. It's a good bunch of people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's great to see you on the podium, mate. And who knows, in amongst all of the championship chaos in this final race, you could find yourself up there again.
Yeah, you never know. We'll see what happens.
Good stuff. Well done, Henry, then, with a podium finish in the penultimate round of the championship. Well, that is pretty much all we needed to catch up on after the first race. We've got about 6.5 minutes left of this practice session before we jump into the final race of the season. And as I said, we've been breaking out the calculator, working out what the point situation might be. And of course, because so many of our championship contenders had their worst race of the season in that race, that is counting as a dropped score for an awful lot of them. So it's all going to be, it's all been a bit frantic trying to work out what those points might be. But we reckon that Dan Blake is the points leader on about 109 points, we think. Second place will be David Ward. So despite the fact David didn't score in that race, it means that he counts back the 34 points that he was previously dropping from the 23, excuse me, he was dropping from Tsukuba race 1 last time. So he is actually still in contention on 92 points, we think. It will still require quite a bit of luck, though, to go David's way, and a bit of bad luck to go Dan Blake's way for David to take the title. It's all going to come down, though, to these final 20 minutes of racing. And it's going to be, probably a bit like last season, a dash to the final corner. Remember that drama with Freddie Hewitt fighting for the lead. He was being caught, though, wasn't he, by Abby Pulling, who came and got her first victory in the PDC Racing League, snatched it from Freddie on the last corner of the last lap of the season. And momentarily, that meant that Freddie wasn't going to be the champion. And then there was more action behind. Dan Blake was delayed. He lost another place, and that was enough for Freddie Hewitt to take the title. It could all come down to a very similar situation here. Again, we're 4.5 minutes away from the start of the race. Just going to take 2 minutes of quiet so that I can just get the points double confirmed, and then we will be back for the start of the final race of the season. We'll leave you, though, with the sights and sounds of this free practice session in the meantime. So we are back in action for the final race of the season here for the PDC Racing League. The grid is being formed and Phil Regan has the pole position. We're going to pick out the championship contenders though, because we reckon Dan Blake on 109 points is the championship leader. He's ninth on the grid. David Ward second in the championship on 92, but he has been drawn seventh, just ahead of Dan Blake, and Freddie Hewitt third in the championship on 85 is ahead of them both in third. So the man with the most work to do points-wise is the one that's furthest up the road. There are 36 points still available, because you can get 35 for winning the race and a bonus point for the fastest lap. This is it then, the final round of the PDC Racing League Season 3. The lights are on, and we are about to go racing around the Silverstone Historic Grand Prix circuit. The lights go out now, and away they will go. Good start made by both the front row men, especially Roger Morton from the outside line. Freddie Hewitt's away well in third as well. It's side by side for fourth between Jason Wood and Dean Timms, and keep an eye to Dan Blake and David Ward. They're together, seventh and eighth at the moment. That's Blake on the inside. He's closing in on David Ward already into the first corner. Freddie Hewitt for second, goes up the inside. Someone's running wide further back. We'll get to that in a moment or two, but Freddie Hewitt is on the attack. He wants to get to the front and escape if he can, and let everything else unfold behind him. He's into second ahead of Roger Morton now, but it's Phil Regan, who is one of the Year 1 racing drivers. He may be running a different livery to Dan Blake, but he is a semi-teammate of Freddie Hewitt's big championship rival. He's not going to make this easy for Freddie. Freddie is quicker off the corner, though. Pulls to the outside line, side by side for the race lead already for Freddie Hewitt, who for once has got a good random grid draw, and he intends to make the most of it. He pulls alongside, gets his nose in front. David Ward, his teammate, is fighting his way through further back as well in the pack, and Dan Blake is at the moment staying well out of it. I think he can see trouble on the horizon here, and he has no desire to be a part of it. Out of club then, then down towards club they go, and Hewitt's got the lead away from Phil Regan in second. Dean Timms is third, though, so 2 Year 1 racing drivers right behind him. Roger Morton fourth. Jason Wood is there in fifth place for PDC Racing, ahead of David Ward and Dan Blake sixth and seventh. Ward is out very, very wide there in the background. Rattles over the curbs coming out of club corner, but that didn't lose him too much speed as they climb the hill now towards the left-hander at Abbey. Now this is where it all went wrong for Freddie Hewitt and David Ward. Oh, well, Freddie Hewitt on the opening lap. For David Ward, it went wrong at the very first corner. Thankfully, he's already lasted longer in this second race. Oh, there's a car off in front of him, though. That was Roger Morton having a big moment over the grass. And now Jason Wood goes off as well, trying to go around the outside of him. So David Ward picks up another place. So too does Dan Blake. Now, if they all finish on the podium, I reckon Blake should win the championship regardless. It's if Freddie, or in particular David, can score well in this race, but Dan Blake ends up down the order, that's when Dan can end up in some trouble. So we'll get the first few laps out of the way before we start counting up the points again. I've had enough of maths. There's a reason that I dropped it as soon as I could in high school. Not my favourite subject. For now, we'll focus on racing. That's something I've always been a fan of. And look at this, the top two in the championship, Dan Blake and David Ward, as one as they turn through Copse Corner then. So David Ward's got his way into fifth, Dan Blake into sixth, but under pressure now from Pete Van Gool. We know Pete is quick. He was up there in second place in the previous race. There's been a moment ahead of them, though, for Dean Timms, and that brings David Ward and Roger Morton onto his tail. David Ward thought about taking it 3 wide into Maggots and Beckett's. That was never going to work, and all the time they can see those top two, Freddie Hewitt and Phil Regan, pulling away out in front. It's the fight for third that is the closest. It's got the most cars involved, and 2 of those cars are championship protagonists that really would rather not be a part of this fight at all. They're in the danger zone right now. This is where things can so easily go wrong. Right, Morton to the outside of Dean Timms, and David Ward goes up the middle of the pair of them. He's taking the bull by the horns now. He's decided this is his chance to get through. He gets himself ahead of Morton. Can he go around the outside of Dean Timms? No, he can't. David Ward runs out of grip on the outside line, and Roger Morton might even go back ahead of him now. The next corner is a left-hander, but it's pretty much flat out, so I'm not sure Ward's going to be able to hold on. No, he can't. Roger Morton goes back ahead of him. Nick Veltenar is closing in on this group as well now. Nick Veltenar, the second of the Year 1 Racing, with the proper Year 1 Racing liveried cars there in this pack. Also got Daniel Hunt, who was a championship contender, but that non-score in the previous race has now taken him officially out of the hunt. Sam Holman, Michael Seal, Carl Jacquelet. There's lots of quick drivers here. The top 2 checking out, though. They're 2.7 seconds clear of that lot already. Hewitt leading. Phil Regan happy to go with him at the moment in second place. It's all about the fight for third, which screeches into Priory Corner, and David Ward, I think, is back ahead of Roger Morton now into fourth place. So puts a car between himself and Dan Blake at the moment. So Freddie Hewitt then heads out of Luffield. He is currently dropping his worst race 2 score of the season so far, which was a second place finish at Tsukuba last time out. So, at Lime Rock, excuse me, in the first round. So, whatever happens, if he's in the top 2, this score will count. It's only if he's out of the top 2 that it will not. But essentially what that means is that even if he pulled to the side of the road now and didn't finish the race, Freddie Hewitt would essentially score 28 points. He would count back those points from Lime Rock Park. Behind them, it is all kicking off, and David Ward is third now, so he's broken through the defences of, well, everyone, really. They're 3 wide behind. That's Veltenar, Hunt, and Roger Morton, and Morton's going to end up on the grass there. The white and red car bounces his way back on. Daniel Hunt is side-by-side now with Nick Veltenar for 7th place, but David Ward, critically, has got himself into 3rd, Dean Timms 4th, and Dan Blake into 5th position. So Blake is just quietly going about it here. He said he still needs to score some good points in this race to try and take home the championship. We ride on board with the Season 1 champion in 5th position now as he goes down into Stowe. Dean Timms just in front of us, gets very, very sideways, and this could give Blake a chance to get alongside. These two, again, run for sister teams, both running under the Year 1 Racing umbrella. And I don't think Timms is going to really fight this too hard. Dan Blake sweeps around the outside. Graham Sessman having kittens in my ear as he sees his 2 teammates going wheel to wheel. But Dan Blake does go through. Pete Van Gool is the one that's rather overcomplicating this now because he pulls alongside Dean Timms as well. And he considered taking it 3 wide into club that time. Blake up into 4th now. Still, they can't quite decide who's going to be 5th. And, of course, Nick Veltenar's catching them as well now. Now, I don't think Veltenar is realistically in contention anymore after, again, a non-score in the previous race. It wasn't his first one either. But Veltenar is definitely still a contender for a good result in this race if he can pick his way past this lot cleanly. That really has been his problem this year, just getting caught up in other people's accidents too often. I say that of a few drivers out there, actually. Veltenar around the outside there of Dean Timms, who's really slipping back on this lap now. Work their way through Luffield, through Woodcote. There is Dan Hunt behind as well, the privateer, the number 16 car, wheel to wheel with Dean Timms now as they come onto the straight. And then just behind them is Sam Holman, who was up there fighting. He finished 4th in the end in the previous race behind his teammate Henry Church. Blake and Pete Van Gool have broken through, and now they're going to start chasing after David Ward ahead of them. Ward is into 3rd. His worst race 2 result so far this season is 8th place. This is going to be a score that counts for him at the moment. Dan Blake's drop at the moment was a 5th place, so he's actually only just above his previous drop score. He's got to try and escape here, but look at the way Nick Veltenar has caught them. Now, what do they do about Veltenar? Because Dan Blake doesn't really want to be falling down the order, but again, the minimum points that he'll score from this race will be 20 for that 5th place that he's dropping at the moment. Oh, contact, Jason Wood involved in a big shunt. I think that was Mcnally, wasn't he? Adam Mcnally. Oh, and Dean Timms involved. There's one car somersaulting its way down the Hanger Straight. Henry Church, I think that was. Jason Wood is stranded in the middle of the road. Didn't quite see how all of that happened. Oh, here we go. Oh, well, Jason had a big moment, and Dean Timms hit him once, then tried to get past, then got collected again, and then got collected again. 3 times he made contact with Jason Wood there. None of them his fault. And then he picks his way back through the wreckage. But all 3 of those drivers surely are going to be out of the race. Henry Church just nowhere to go, although there should have been yellow flags out there, you'd imagine, and he didn't really look like he was slowing down all that much, but that is a pretty wrecked race car, I'm afraid, for Henry. And Jason Wood, you can see, he'd had a moment on the curb, I think, and just lost it in front of everybody, and after that, it was game on, as they say. So a few quick drivers out of the race, unfortunately, after that incident going on to the Hanger Straight, but the rest of them are continuing on their way. There's Henry Church's car being worked on in the pit lane. Right, race leader is Freddie Hewitt. He is out in front, and as things stand, he is on course for 35, make that 36 points, because he's got the fastest lap as well now. So at the moment, his final score would be 121 points. It's not going to be enough, is it? Because we know Blake is going to score no less than 20 in this race. So Dan Blake's worst possible outcome here is 129. So the only man I think that can beat Blake here is David Ward. And David Ward is running in 3rd at the moment, which means that he would score 25 points. On to 92. That's 117. So as things stand, doing some very, very quick maths, Dan Blake needs to score 9 points. If he scores 9 points, about 8 points would do it even, in this race, he should be okay. So as long as he's anywhere in the top 10 or 11, Dan Blake should be champion on our very, very rough and provisional calculations. So right now, Freddie Hewitt doing everything he can, but I don't think it's going to be enough, realistically, for him to take home the title. And in fact, Nick Veltnar has just taken the fastest lap away from him with a 2 minutes 2.1. Veltnar, Blake's down to 6. This is interesting. Dan Blake down to 6th place. So Veltnar's gone through, but so has Pete Van Gool. Here's how it happened. And Veltnar had already got past Gool at this point, and Dan Blake let him go. But then somewhere, Pete Van Gool takes advantage of this with a better exit out of Copse, maybe. That's alongside. And I reckon Dan Blake decides that the last thing he wants to do is go side by side with someone who is not in the championship battle through Maggots and Beckett. And Pete Van Gool knew that. He forced the issue. He knew that Dan Blake would probably let him go. And he did. But that now means that Blake can only afford to lose another couple of positions. Otherwise, Freddie Hewitt might just... David Ward might snatch the championship away. And, of course, there's always a chance that Ward could improve his position. Someone's off there up the road. I think that was a back marker, though. So the next question, then, is can David Ward catch the leaders? At the moment, the answer might be yes, because he is lapping quicker than them. He did a 2 minutes 2.68 last time around, which was about 4 tenths quicker than the race leader. He's 1.9 behind Phil Regan, who's dropped back now from Freddie Hewitt, actually. If Ward starts gaining positions, that means that Dan Blake might have to start gaining positions as well. Blake heads out of Copse corner. So right now, Blake would be scoring the 100... he would be counting this as a drop, so he's essentially scoring 20 points now. Puts him on 129. And yeah, I'm suspecting here that maybe Nick Veltnar might be asked at some point to give a place back to Dan, but it's not at the moment so much about what Dan does, it's more about what David Ward does, because David, if he gets into second place, would be scoring 28 points all of a sudden. Add that onto his 92, and he's on 120. So no, he still has to win, doesn't he? He still needs the win, David Ward. Dan Blake, though, is back up the inside of Pete Van Gool here into Stowe corner. Can he get through here? Ooh, not quite, not quite. Pete Van Gool forcing the issue again on the outside line. And Dan Blake, again, just not really willing to take any unnecessary risks. And he's quite right to as well, because, again, as I keep running the point scores here, you've got David Ward, even if he took maximum points, 36 points, add that to the 92 that he's got now, that still only puts him on 128. And the worst Dan Blake can do out of this race is 129. So I actually think if the maths were right coming into the race, Dan Blake might have actually won it already. But the last thing he needs is contact that could lead to a penalty and an exclusion and some points that getting taken away, because that exclusion that Freddie Hewitt had at Tsukuba, one thing I didn't mention earlier on is that they also docked him 5 championship points. And if Dan Blake were to get involved in a similar bit of contact, he too could find himself losing points. So there's still something in it here for David Ward to push on and try and win. And he's going to get there, isn't he? Look, because he was a full 9 tenths quicker. No, he wasn't, sorry. He was a full 6 tenths quicker than Phil Regan last time around. But Regan is dropping away slightly from the leader. Hewitt does a 2 minutes 2.5, which is, about 2.5 slower than Ward. But Ward is half a second quicker than Regan. And Veltnar has the fastest lap. Now, Veltnar's on the tail of Pete Van Gool. No, it's Dan Blake, excuse me. Veltnar's actually catching David Ward. Veltnar fastest on the track quite comfortably at the moment. Then Pete Van Gool under pressure for his 5th place here from Dan Blake. Blake, I repeat, does not need to take the risk. He can finish where he is now and based on our calculations still be okay. But will he want to take that risk? Just in case it's that 1 point that he needs. And of course, he might not have worked out the maths the same way we have. Pete Van Gool moves to the left-hand side. He's not pulling over, is he? No, he's... well, he's not defending there from Dan, is he? Dan's got the inside into Stowe. And Blake cruises up alongside Pete Van Gool. He's late on the brakes, and he is going to go back through into 5th here then. So Dan Blake back into P5. Like I said, his previous drop was a 5th place as well from Lime Rock. Sorry, from Scuba, excuse me. And then he lets Pete Van Gool go back through again. So... that was short-lived. They're being caught by another Year 1 car now, Carl Jacquelet and Dan Hunt as well behind. Veltnar setting that fastest lap means that that's 1 more point that is not going the way of any of the championship contenders. Roger Morton up the hill here then. Roger Morton running in 12th place. Cesare Rizzo and Michael Seal right in front of him. This is a nice little battle going on. This is for the last spot within the top 10. Head through Bridge Corner again now. Into Priory, and they're side by side almost there. Michael Seal thought he saw a chance to get up the inside into the left-hander at Priory, then into the tighter left-hander at Brooklands. Right on board now with Roger Morton. Good view of the scrap going on in front of him. And they accelerate again across the start-finish line now. Even this straight is long enough for a little bit of slipstreaming. Is Morton going to be able to attack here, or is it going to be Michael Seal that has a go into Copse? In the end, none of them decide to duck out of line, but Michael Seal very, very sideways there as he went into the quick right-hander. And accelerate again into Baggett's Beckett's beautiful piece of circuit here. Oh no, Rizzo sideways on the grass. Oh, almost makes contact there with Michael Seal, and Rizzo actually ends up hanging on, and it's Morton that could gain here. What do you remember was inside the top 4 or 5 early on. Slipped back again now. He's made back through now and to Stowe Corner. Now I'm hearing that there's been some drama at the front because Phil Regan from second place has gone off the road, and I think we're about possibly to see a replay of how that happened. It all means that Beltar into second, and this is off at Stowe. I'm not quite seeing the replay, I'm afraid, but Phil Regan has gone off down at Stowe Corner. Oh, and this has involved David Ward as well, so this could be... So Ward's carried on, but has Ward got damage? That's the question. So Veltanar's gone second now, and of course Blake is promoted to 4th, so he's now scoring a few more points. Dan Blake now would be on for 22 points. He'd be on 131, so that's fairly unassailable. There is damage, look, to the rear wing of David Ward's car. Feltonar into second, 4.5 seconds behind Freddie Hewitt. And David Ward then in the Fast R with Team Cheetah Esports car, walking wounded now after that contact. So Ward was catching Regan, of course, wasn't he? And that could have been a potentially important overtake, but it's not going to matter now because the contact has meant that he's not going to have the pace, surely, to challenge for a race win. It's all falling again into the lap of Dan Blake, but Blake has a queue of cars behind him now, one of which is his teammate, but the other two are Pete Van Gool and Daniel Hunt, who, by the way, now has the fastest lap of the race, does Daniel. Set it a couple of laps ago. Oh, Van Gool almost into the back of Jacqueline, and Daniel Hunt almost into the back of him as well. Scrap this here, but Dan Blake would rather not be in this. He would just wants another race like he had in race 1, just calm, quiet, peaceful, no one around him, empty track, no accidents to get involved in, no reason to push and make mistakes. 4th place at the moment should be enough for him to wrap up the title and become the first 2-time champion in the PDC Racing League. Up the inside there goes Pete Van Gool, sideways into the side of Jacqueline. Nearly he does get collected by Dan Hunt, and that was a shame for Dan because he did nothing wrong there. Just got a bit caught up with Pete Van Gool getting sideways. They both got damage now. That immediately takes some of the heat off of Dan Blake, who's now just got his teammate Carl Jacqueline behind him, and Hunt has damage. The car won't turn through Club Corner. See the front left corner is damaged, and he finishes the job against the tyre wall. Coming out of Club Corner, and I think this is a frustrated driver riding on board with, because he was 3rd place in the championship coming into tonight with every bit as good a chance of winning it as others, but to be in the end. Right then, it's all taken a bit of a while, but we are about to come through onto the final lap of the race, the final lap of the season 3 of the PDC Racing League. And Freddie Hewitt, who is going to come through, it would look like, in a lap's time to take his 3rd win of the season. He's won, therefore, if he pulls this one off, half of the races this season. That's an incredible achievement. If it hadn't been for that exclusion at Tsukuba, he would have been the champion. It's as simple as that. But it goes to show that it's one thing to be quick, one thing to win races, one thing to start on pole position all the time. But if you're getting involved in accidents, if you're making contact with people, None of it intentional, of course. He was just trying to race hard for race victories. It's a short season, this, just 6 races. So every point matters, every position matters. It was worth going for it. But if you do end up making contact with people and getting penalties or non-finishes, it can wreak havoc on your final points haul. But this has been an exemplary drive, really. He was a bit fortunate with his grid position. Not had to overtake quite as many people as, say, Nick Valtenaro and Carl Jacquelet have, who have both gained 14th positions into 2nd and 5th, respectively. But Freddie had to make those overtakes work. They had to be clean. He had to make sure that he got to the front and escaped, which is exactly what he did. He was getting away anyway from Phil Regan earlier on. He's 4 seconds ahead of Nick Veltenar now. Nick's not going to catch him over the final half a lap. It's going to be another fantastic drive for Freddie Hewitt here. Comes out of club corner again. Whereas the new version of Silverstone would turn right. This one turns very quickly to the left through Abbey Corner. 3 different variations of Abbey there used to be, depending on which layout of the circuit you were racing on, and down into Bridge Corner. What a shame this corner isn't used anymore in national racing in the UK. The great things about sim racing is that you can sometimes recreate things that are simply not possible in the real world. Certainly with races at certain variations of track that sadly are no longer used. But Freddie Hewitt then is coming out of the final corner then of the final lap of the season in the 3rd season of racing in the PDC Racing League. And Freddie Hewitt is going to take his 3rd victory in Season 3. He sees the checkered flag and takes the checkered flag. He is victorious here at Silverstone. Nick Veltenar is 2nd. David Ward, a valiant effort in 3rd. But provisionally, your PDC Racing League champion is Dan Blake for the 2nd time in 3 seasons. Dan Blake is your champion. He comes home in 4th position. And, well, that is thoroughly deserved. He's been in the wars a bit in this 3rd season of racing as Dan. But he's managed to come through and take it provisionally, subject to post-race recalculations and penalties, etc., etc., etc. But as officially as we can give it, Dan Blake should be your champion, and he pulls up alongside Nick Veltenar and Carl Jacquelet for a bit of a Year 1 Racing team photo, and so one of the Team Cheetah Esports drivers trying to join in the party as well. Cesare Rizzo's off to Northamptonshire, and he wants no part of this post-race celebration, but Dan Blake, I'm sure, will be taking it all in. It's a tough little championship to win this, especially this year with a shortened calendar, still these 2 drop scores to contend with, and a very competitive field, and it bodes well for Season 4, should that happen, which hopefully it will do in the near future. It's a championship that keeps on growing and growing every season, and gets more and more entertaining with every race. So this 3rd season, the first couple of events, Lime Rock Park was incredible with the Year 1 Racing and the Team Cheetah teams really going toe-to-toe there. And then Tsukuba, things started getting a bit physical, a bit tetchy maybe between some of the championship rivals. To be fair, they were pretty tetchy after Lime Rock Park as well when Dan Blake and Freddie Hewitt made contact whilst fighting for the lead in the very first race of the season. Race that Hewitt went on to win, but Dan was not best pleased with the way that race panned out. But now, here at Silverstone, it's been Blake who's driven imperiously, really. A race win in race 1 after a solid qualifying effort, his best qualifying effort of the season, but he was just in the right place at the right time to avoid all of the chaos at the start of the race. And then race 2 drove a careful, considered champion's drive. Didn't get involved in anything that he didn't need to. Just made sure that he stayed out of trouble. And that means that he provisionally is your champion, despite Freddie Hewitt, Nick Veltenar and David Ward all finishing ahead of him in the final race of the season. They are your final podium finishers. Hopefully we'll have a word with some of those in a moment, as well as, of course, Dan Blake in 4th. Carl Jacquelet was 5th. Pete Van Gool 6th. 7th for Phil Regan. 8th Sam Holman, while Cesare Rizzo and Michael Seal rounded out that top 10. Then it was Roger Morton in 11th, Ian Court 12th, Alex Hall 13th, ahead of Ben Best and Chris Kidman, the last of the point scorers. Then it was Matthew Payne, Dean Timms luckless in that one down in 17th, Gavin Johnson as well. He was, I presume, caught up in that incident down the back straight, although I don't recall seeing him there actually. Adam McNally was 19th, Henry Church 20th, then Ian Crosby, Kevin McGlone, Alan Toon, Daniel Hunt and Jason Ward, although Crosby, Hunt and Wood all not running out the finish. They might be classified as non-finishers. It's all, though, about Dan Blake, who works his way in perfect team unison through the final couple of corners. and racing again this year in his Mazda MX-5 with the 750 Motor Club. Do check out a 750 Motor Club race meeting if you can, because there's a good chance Dan will be there racing. He was actually at Silverstone this past weekend racing his Mazda MX-5 on the modern version of the Silverstone circuit. And the field pulls up into position. You've got the 5 Year 1 racing liveried cars and Pete Van Gool, who then disappears. So there's the money shot for Year 1 racing. Graham Sessford, my producer, I'm sure is loving this particular moment as he sees cars all lined up 5 abreast across the start-finish line. If they'd have tried that during the race earlier on, it might not have ended too well, but thankfully they saved that till the celebratory photograph at the end of the race. So your race winner is Freddie Hewitt. Your champion is Dan Blake, provisionally. And be sure to head over to the PDC Racing website for more information on this championship, their real-world racing exploits as well, and any information as and when we get it on the fourth season, of the PDC Racing League, which I believe is in the works. It's just a matter of figuring out when everyone's free, of course, because the real world racing season is very much back up and running again now, as I've alluded to. It means that sometimes drivers are just not available to race in sim racing as readily as they were previously. A lot of these drivers race in real world club level racing, including Dan Blake, who is our champion, and he's here with us now then to have a chat. Dan, well, we think you've done it anyway, provisionally, but a 4th place was a pretty good result anyway. Looks as though you are a 2-time champion. Well done.
Oh, thank you very much, Andy. It's been a very interesting season. Obviously, there's been a lot of close fighting, and thank you to Freddie and to David and everyone who's fought so hard. I mean, it's been the most intense season of the PDC Racing League that we sort of ever had. It's been a short season. Every point has literally counts. And from there on, really, it's been good.
That race was altogether a bit less dramatic at the start, but I'd imagine still quite nerve-wracking, because unlike in race 1, where you were kind of able to escape most of it after the first lap at least, you were right in the thick of the battles there, weren't you, pretty much throughout?
To be really careful. Peter Van Gool gave me a good race, and sort of he made a mistake, and I just managed to get past him. But until that point, I didn't want to get caused in any contact, because I knew if I had any sort of contact, then potentially I could have an appeal against me. So I was trying to keep my nose as clean as possible. But I didn't actually know during the race what I needed to do. It was only like a lap to go, and Nick told me I needed to finish like 8th or higher. So I was sort of tippy-toeing it around, just trying to get as many points as I could, but being as careful as possible. And I was being, for my standards anyway, I had to be quite brave.
Yeah, we could see a couple of times where I think when Nick went past you into turn 1 and then Pete drew up alongside down into Maggots and Beckers, it did very much look like you were thinking, no, I don't want any part of this. I'm just going to let him go.
I've raced with Pete for a long time as well as part of the BSR, so I know the sort of rate. The Pete's a good, clean racer, and there was no need to go too wide through there. It's sort of I found an opportunity later on, and I think that sometimes it's don't have to make that move there and then. So sort of I just wanted to get the car home in one piece, really. And I just want to say a big thank you as well to Gav and Pip from PDC. It's been a fantastic championship, and it's probably been a bit more stressful this time round than normal. It's been a lot more competitive, but wow, what a fantastic championship. We started at Alton Park, I think it's 8 drivers, and to see some of the names as well we've had racing in the championship over the time it's been running as well, and obviously it's just a fantastic championship. If there's anyone watching who wants to do some Skippy racing, come and join us if there's a season 4. I'm sure there will be, because everyone seems to come back for more and in greater numbers season on season.
Yeah, absolutely. I second that. This third season has been dramatic in the extreme, but the racing has been really top quality. Dan, I'm going to let you go and celebrate, but well done. A brilliant drive there in the final couple of races. And you are, as I said, a double PDC Racing League champion.
Excellent. Thank you as well to you guys for the broadcast, and also to my sponsor, Year 1 Custom Flip Flop Company. If you use the code Blake27 at checkout, you get 10% off a pair of your own.
Yeah, I'll give that a go. Can I get a Dan Blake pair, though? That's what I really want to know.
Yes, you can. There is actually a design for my Mazda MX-5. So yeah, you can do that, Andy. That's not a problem.
Very nice then, very nice. The check's in the post, I hope. Right, on to our other podium finishers then, because we also have Freddie Hewitt here, who was he gave that a valiant effort to try and snatch the championship away. Freddie, it's not quite going to be enough. That exclusion at Tsukuba really is what did for you, but what a way to bow out as reigning champion with a pretty dominant race win.
Yes, it's the right way to give the #1 back. Bit of a heartbreaking season, really, because we had the pace to be at the front, and I think we showed that we were one of the fastest cars out there, if not the fastest. And yeah, I don't really agree with the penalty, but it's what it is, and we'll come back.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? Because you had obviously 3 race wins. That's half the season that you won, and arguably there were a couple of other races you could have won along the way as well. Is there anything you would do differently next time, maybe if we're back here again in a few weeks or months for season 4? Would you approach that in a different way, or would it still be that sort of all-attacking driving style that we've loved seeing from you?
You've got to go all attack, I think, especially in these cars. If you miss your opportunity, then there's no going back, really, and you've missed out.
Yeah, you've got to sort of seize those opportunities, haven't you? But very easy to lock wheels, make contact, and suffer damage. Obviously, that happened to you in race 1 as well. Just quickly, whilst we've got you, talk us through what happened on that opening lap.
Yeah, I thought, we'll hopefully we'll get around the 2-year 1 cars, which we did. But it was sort of a 3 against 1 then. I was in my mirror quite a bit. And then when Nick was on my inside, I gave him enough room. There was plenty of room down there, but he just kept forcing the issue, really, which is a shame because it put a couple of our cars out of the race, which was a bit of a shame.
Yeah, it was a shame to see it end like that, but you were able to bounce back in race 2. What about your real world racing exploits this year? Because you're someone that's been starting to make a bit of noise on the club level racing scene in the UK. Are you out in anything this year?
We've got a test in the BMW M3, the faster car.
Oh, nice.
On the 1st of September, which is going to be exciting. And we are planning to do the KAs at Brands Hatch, the last round as well. And I'm not really sure what else I've got lined up yet.
Oh, good. Well, that KA championship is a great little championship, actually. Anyone watching at home who fancies a bit of one-make endurance racing, you can do a lot worse than heading down to a race meeting with them on the bill. And you never know, you might even bump into the outgoing PDC Racing League champion, Freddie Hewitt. Freddie, thanks for being a great sport all season long. It's been great having a few chats with you, and hopefully we'll see you back here again next time to reclaim the title.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks to Faster for sharing the stream today, because that's been a big help.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks to everyone that's been tuning in through the Fastar social media pages. Sadly, your driver not able to take the championship, but a good effort with the race victory. Right, second place in that race, charging through the order, was Nick Veltenaar. Nick, you started that one down in, I think, about 16th place, but there was no stopping you, was there? Great drive.
Yeah, race 2 was a good one. I want to start it off by saying or giving my apologies for race 1. I dove in the inside, figured I had to run, ended up not being so apologies to Hewitt, totally my fault. But yeah, race 2 was awesome, had fun.
We had fun watching you as well. It was a fantastic drive, and it's not the first time we've seen you do this. You've arguably been one of the quickest drivers in the championship. You've just had nothing but bad luck, it seems.
Yeah, thing is, race 2 makes race 1 look more horrible than it really is, because I tend to do better once I failed in race 1. But again, race on Lime Rock, race 1 with Ward, shit happens. Not mad about it, so.
No, absolutely. That's racing, isn't it? At the end of the day, and,
exactly.
These things do happen. It's been great having you on board. There, you've been one of the most exciting drivers to watch, and hopefully we'll see you back again next time.
Yeah, that's the plan, and I'm just grateful to be invited by Chesford and Year One. So looking forward to the next one.
Good stuff. Well, we'll have you back anytime, Nick, and congratulations on the second place in
Thank
race
you.
number 2. And then we can finally move on, I think, to our final podium finisher, David Ward, who's sat patiently waiting to have a chat with us. Well, David, you came in leading the points. It wasn't quite meant to be in the end. What on earth happened to you at the start of that first race, though?
Yeah, I need to have a look at the replay. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
It was a shame, wasn't it? Because you were looking really strong. Again, you've been a contender for the championship on a number of occasions now. It's been an interesting season this year, though, hasn't it? With the teams element as well. And your team, we think, have come out with the teams championship. So at least you've got that to celebrate.
Yeah, that was the most important thing when we came into this championship was, the drivers' championship was. For me, it wasn't the most important thing. It was all about the team championship. So I think you're right. I think it's we've got that. So congratulations to Freddie and myself for getting that. That's really good news.
You two have worked really well as a team as well, I've noticed, all season long, be that in qualifying or maybe through the random grid races as well, kind of picking your way through together. Is that the kind of thing that before the night gets started, you two have a bit of a chat and a bit of a set up a bit of a game plan for it? See, it certainly seems from the outside like you two work well together.
No, we just race each other, and we race each other cleanly and fairly. So, if he's off ahead, then yeah, I'll sit behind, and it's about the team game at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, you certainly have achieved the goal of wrapping up the team's championship, and a decent result for you there as well to round out the season. Another podium finish for you there. I think that makes about I think it's your third appearance on the podium this season. So a nice way to end the season.
Yeah, it was good. Hopefully the guys will run it again, and we'll see what happens next time. Thanks very much, guys.
No, not a problem, David. Thanks for entertaining us out on track, and congratulations on, we believe, second in the championship as well, the Drivers' Championship. So a good season all round for David. Well, there you go then. I think that is probably all we have time for. Time is... we might... Go on then. Why not? Why not? Let's have a word with Carl Jacquelet, shall we? Because he came home in 5th place in that race. And Carl, I wanted to talk to you actually because you, a bit like Nick Veltenar, gained 14 places from where he started. You often seem to have a bit of work to do in these second races, don't you?
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed to start so far back, but what a race. Absolutely loved that one. It was fantastic. Best race I've had for months.
Really? Well, it's the perfect place to do it. If you've got to start at the back from any track, I suppose Silverstone's not a bad one. There are places you can pass, but it's just as easy to get caught up in someone else's crash, isn't it?
Oh, very easy, as race 1 proved. That was a struggle with damaged nose box. I had so little top end speed, but very happy to come away with 9th from it.
And you've been there or thereabouts, actually, throughout the season. You've had good speed, haven't you? So what do you reckon? If we have a season 4 in a few weeks' time, could you be up there challenging Dan and Freddie for the title?
Well, I hope so. Started off this one with a huge handicap by missing the first round completely. So a non-scoring race in race 2 last week didn't help. But no, I've had a 3rd, a 5th, and a 9th in 3 races. String that together with a whole season, and you're in with a chance.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? It's about consistency as much as outright speed sometimes. But you've definitely had the speed, and it's been nice to see you throwing that thing around and getting stuck in your typical style.
Oh, it was great. Absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. All I need to do now is learn to drive a GT3 this fast.
Yes, because you do a lot of sim racing with Year One as well, don't you? What sort of other things have you got lined up in the near future?
Not a lot at the moment. I've had a bit of a rest. I was doing too many races. I was doing 5 leagues in a week, and it was just too much. So I stopped enjoying it. I was getting tremendous bad luck all the time. So I thought, take a step back, have a rest, just do a couple of races. I'm doing this and the Chaz Draycott's Boring Car Championship.
Oh, yeah, that looks like a lot of fun as well, actually. I must check that out. But yeah, well, congratulations on the 5th place. A great comeback drive, that, especially after the disappointment of race 1. And hopefully we'll be speaking to you on the podium in the near future.
Well, I hope so. Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Well, Carl Jacquelet there, 5th place for him in the final race of the season. And the last person we'll talk to, because he was a part of that lead battle for much of the second race, was Pete Van Gool. And he was 6th place in the race in the end. But Pete, you were right in the thick of all of that podium action, and you had some of the championship contenders around you as well.
Yeah, well, I must admit, first race I was a bit lucky because I got second. It was mostly because all the fast guys just crashed out. And then in the second race, I managed to get up into 6th position, I guess. And then there was a crash in front, and then I lost it to the 2 year 1 races.
Yeah, that was, it could have gone better, I suppose, race 2, but all things considered, it's been a really nice end to the season because you had some good speed last time at Tsukuba as well, didn't you? You had a top 5 finish there. So if you can string that together over a season, I think you, like many others out there, have the potential to fight for the championship.
Well, yeah, I still need to get my head around this car because I'm used to driving the MX-5s, and this is just a bit different. It needs a bit more steering input and stuff, but I really enjoy it, and there's really good racing out there with some nice lads.
The actual style of racing, I'd imagine, is quite similar to MX-5s. Though it relies a lot on the slipstream. You can run really close together. You've got to be good at attack and defense, haven't you?
Yeah, but on this car, you really need to keep the speed up because it hasn't really got much power, and the steering input you put on this because you really want to slide this around is a tad bit more than on the MX-5.
Well, that's interesting, actually. You can definitely see the cars moving around a lot. They've got those wings, but I'm guessing they don't provide that much downforce.
Well, no, I think I lost my wing in the final race there, and when I with Dan.
No downforce at all, then.
Yeah, it was good.
Oh, well, congratulations anyway. 6th place finish for Pete in the final race of the season. So hopefully we'll see you again in season 4 as and when that takes place, Pete.
Yeah, thank you for all the effort you put in. Amazing broadcast, and I hope to see you in the next season.
Looking forward to it, Pete. Thank you very much for stopping in for a chat. That, everyone, though, I think is now all we've got time for. It's been another really exciting season of racing in the PDC Racing League. The 3rd season is in the books. We have, provisionally at least, a double champion in the shape of Dan Blake, but there is a whole host of other drivers itching for another go, another bite of the cherry, another chance to prove that they could be the PDC Racing champion. Be sure to head over to the PDC Racing website and social media pages as well to keep up to date with all of the news on their real racing and also news of hopefully when the 4th season of racing will get underway. Also, give Year One Racing a quick like and subscribe on the socials as well, because they've worked hard to put together the whole broadcast for not only this championship, but many, many others as well. Check them out. Some exciting projects in the pipeline for them too. Thanks to Pip and Gavin from PDC for putting everything together and all of the drivers for taking part. And finally, thanks to Graham Sessford, our producer, for putting together the broadcasts. They've been top quality as always. It's a pleasure to be a part of the team here at Year One TV. That, though, is everything we have time for here at Silverstone. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll hopefully see you again in the very near future.